Okay, this is the first part of a two-part tutorial showing how to develop graphics or images that can be used as buttons, and then programming those buttons in Dreamweaver. So this first part is going to go over the actual generation of the graphics that you're going to utilize in the actual buttons. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to hit Control-N in the Photoshop interface, and I'm going to create a new document. Okay. The pixel dimensions are going to be the actual dimensions of the image you're going to want to work with. You can do some resizing in Dreamweaver, but that tends to scale and distort some of the graphics. So typically you want to work from a 1-to-1 ratio here. And the pixel's resolution should be set to 72 dpi. That is relative to the computer screen. Okay, color mode is RGB. That matches the monitor. And that is also important as we move into saving the file. And then you always want the background to be transparent for just in general. You can add color if you want, but you can't take away the background once it's on there. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK, and I'm going to give this a title. We'll call it button, and we'll call this the up condition. Okay. And so I've turned off the tabbed viewport as it will pop up on here, so you see a bunch of tabs. If you don't like that, you can toggle that on and off from the interface here. Right here. So if you want documents to open as tabs, you can turn that on, or you can turn that off from there. Okay, and so this is going to just be a brief introduction to this, but obviously we have all our editing tools. I've already done a tutorial to talk about sort of how each one of these is organized. And then we have the editing toolbar here that is essentially the controls for each one of these tools on the edge here. So if you click and hold on any one of these, for example, when you're actually sitting on the original interface here, you might click and see the gradient tool, but we actually want the paint bucket tool for our first command here. And so if we click and hold, we can expand these out, and you see that there's a much wider array of tools embedded in this as you start to explore it. And so down here we have our swatch tab here, and so if we click on this, we can start to select our colors, and we can start to paint that as we start to want to generate the graphics. Okay. And so if I go ahead and then on this edge, obviously we can start to control the colors, dial these in. We have swatches, we have paths, channels, and layers, and we'll get into that probably at another date. But the most important thing here is that we have layers and layer control. So if we want to control global functions of a layer, making it slightly transparent or knocking out some of the opacity, we can do that. We can start to organize our layers as we start to and draw, and you see that automatically created a new layer entitled text, and you'll see once I update that, it'll take the text that's in there and call it the title of the layer. You can rename this as color. Alright, so if I hit the T button, that'll put me back on the text, so I can start to format this. So I'm just going to create a really simple graphic, one that I demoed in the class actually, and I have some fonts installed on my machine that you probably don't have installed on yours, but I also demoed how to do that in class, so if you guys need to install fonts, you can go ahead and do that from that interface there. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and move this into position. So that's going to be the initial graphic. Okay, and so say this is going to be the first button. It's kind of generic and also harkens back to the Windows sort of tile interface that they just developed and released, but that's okay. And it's also very Asian in its color scheme. We're going to go ahead and hit Control Save. Is the first thing we need to do. We need to save this as a Photoshop document. And the reason for that is that's going to maintain all of our editing capacities down the road. So if we want to be able to come back and manipulate this down the road, change the colors, change the text, we need to have that saved as a Photoshop document. If we save it as an image, we automatically lose all of that content. Okay? And so I'm going to call this button 1. Okay, so hit save, and then we'll hit Control-Shift-S to save as. You can also get that from the file drop down. And we're going to save this as a PNG, and that's a portable network graphic. And that's going to enable us to essentially be a web-ready graphic. PNGs are automatically RGB, and they're designed to be plugged into the web, so they're really nice, lightweight, small files that'll upload easily. And they also have the added advantage of maintaining any transparency that you might have incorporated into your design work for the image. So go ahead, you can go ahead and just hit OK. There's nothing special about that. Alright, and so then that's the first graphics, that's the up state that we just saved. Now we can come in here and I'm going to go ahead and just create a new layer, and we're going to start to modify the down condition. So we'll do red and blue. Actually, we'll case state, so we'll do purple. Alright, so using the paint bucket tool, you can go ahead and, so it just gave us an error because we actually are not on an active layer. So we have to make sure we have that layer selected that we want to modify. Okay, and so this is where the layers become really, really useful. We haven't really destroyed our red. If we turn this layer off, we can still see this, and we can save the image out as that. And likewise, we can turn that on, and since this is on top of that, it'll actually view this. So if we were to save this image out, it would ignore all the red underneath. So we can hit Control Shift Save As. Again, we're doing a PNG. We're going to say this is button. I'm going to say this is button down, but really it's a button over, rollover. Alright, so we'll save that, and that's going to get you set up so you can create your first initial buttons.